And there was a particular comment I really wanted to address down here. I'm going to read it to you. It says, Maddie's black jacket was found by the fire hydrant across from the band field that Ellie found and tossed aside is an indication that some type of outside altercation took place after the girls arrived home from the grub truck. Were the girls outside looking for the dog Murphy when they were surrounded, overwhelmed, and taken to the Linda Lane apartments where more nefarious activities were pursued? Why would Maddie's black jacket be found outside on a cold night? Why was the lead dude from the Linda Lane 4 at 12:28 a.m. on 11/13 walking into Linda Lane apartments carrying a long knife by his side as captured by the camera? Kaylee and Maddie were kidnapped and taken to the Linda Lane apartments, and the FBI should be investigating the entire case. I'm just going to read these other comments. The house is well known for noise, and LE going into the house for noise complaints. Sometimes constant noise from a location is ignored. Kaylee and Maddie were probably surrounded and gagged at this point. I wrote, I have carefully listened to those theories, and I have been part of those emails. I will never dismiss any theories going around because they are all relevant. However, I think there would be more DNA evidence on the outside of the house because they claim Kaylee was the only one killed in the house, if I'm not mistaken. And I'd like to know your thoughts. Thanks. And he wrote, in analyzing this case, what we have been told by LE is not correct. The timeline BK 4:08 a.m. arrived 4:20 a.m. departed is an impossible for a quadruple murder timeline. The picture of the speeding car past the gas station at 3:45 a.m. has been altered. Bodies in the house were moved. Fake food orders were made to confuse the timeline and fake deliveries made. Who makes a food delivery order at 4 a.m.? So the reality surrounding these murders is much more different from what we are being told. Maddie's black jacket was found outside is an indication of outside altercation and kidnapping. Ellie outside the band field wearing coveralls and latex gloves at 3 a.m. is incredibly sus. The Linda Lane 4 walking into the Linda Lane apartments at 12:28 a.m. with the lead dude hiding his face while carrying a long knife by his side is incredibly sus, as is the 3:30 a.m. trip to the dumpster. When the kidnappings are investigated and this becomes a federal case, people will all start taking the facts. Okay. So I want to talk about this. Let me just change this overlay. Okay, so the first thing I want to talk about is this motive for what this gentleman is talking about in my comments. Let's just take this back a notch. We know where the source is for these accusations. So we'll take this one at a time. So as far as Maddie's jacket out front of the house, I don't know if it was entered into evidence. I did see the picture of the police picking that jacket off the fire hydrant and throwing it down on the ground. I don't know what happened after that. I don't know if they left it there for the elements to take it or if they came back to it afterwards. I saw that too, but I can't say that that jacket wasn't entered into evidence. We know a glove that was found in the wooded area was entered into evidence, so I can't imagine the jacket wasn't as well. The problem I have with the Linda Lane kidnapping theory is two parts. Number one, that theory implicates that 3 of the roommates were unalived outside of the 1122 King Road home. So if that's the case, we already have a problem with lack of DNA. So, which has always kind of been a mystery to all of us. How would the roommates, how would 3 of the people be unalived outside the house and then brought back into the house without more DNA? So that has always kind of been a problem for me to believe that the kidnapping theory is true. The second theory that I really want to go on the record say I'm beginning to almost dismiss completely is the one that Harsh Reality brought up, where he read some private email chains that all of us have. We've all had some of these emails come through. Robert's here with me. How's it going?
It's going okay.
When we get back to those emails, the ones that Harsh Reality posted you have to understand, one of the reasons why I started looking at different angles of evidence is because of that email. Because one thing I heard in that just to me could never ring true. And it's when they started talking about the money. So they tried to say the motive behind this was money. And they started saying, okay, it's $70,000 worth of drugs that were flushed down the toilet. And they go, wait a second, more like 700,000. Okay, that was what the email said that was sent to me, was sent to Harsh Reality, was sent to all of us creators. Robert, I'm sure you got them too. My problem with it is, you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Okay, so this is my problem with that statement. That's when I started thinking this is just something somebody is making up to, or I don't know where they got it, but that number can't be right. And I'll tell you why. Either a drug house or a safe house, but there's no drug house that has $70,000 in, or 700. You don't keep money in a drug house. You keep it in a safe house. And the 1122 King Road was not a safe house. It had noise complaints. I mean, in that comment, we read about the noise complaints. It had a sliding glass door without a security bar that could easily have been broken into. They had little punch keys on their doors, but there wasn't any security. There wasn't cameras. There was an alarm system. There is just, it's hard to think that somebody who could have the ability to make $70,000 or $700,000 would put it in a drug house or a party house. And so for me, that's when I started saying, wait a second, this doesn't make sense. These kids, if they were a safe house holding that money in, or Xana was, it's just nobody who secured that type of funds is going to give it to a child that's not a safe house. I mean, so I think the people who, I'd love to hear from some of the minds, the people who like to dive into the criminal minds, like A.R. Hayes or Rolo Moto. If any of you have some insight on that, that would be nice, because I, again, don't see how a drug house would get its hands on that kind of money. And that kind of blows the motive for that out of the water. Robert, your thoughts?
Well, I've always heard that Emma Bailey was dealing drugs out of the house, and like in that one police video, you can see Emma Bailey walking out of the 1122 King Road house. And when the cops stopped her, she acted like that she didn't live there. When she doesn't live there, but after Kaylee moved out, Emma's best friend was going to move in. She was going to be the sixth roommate after Kaylee moved out. And Emma does have a very big drug history. I mean, just look what happened with her and her boyfriend when that one kid overdosed, and then the charges were just like automatically dropped on them.
Yeah.
You don't drop murder charges the next day, unless they were cooperating with the police on a.
But you're right. That does, and I think that I think in some way, like, it could be exposing an element to this. Like, we know what happens if you get charged with something and then the charges are dropped the next day. It could mean that and I don't know. I don't know if it would have been a murder charge versus a homicide charge. But I don't know. Those are good points, Robert. There's a difference between drug dealing and drug trafficking, though. And $700,000, that's not drug dealing, that's drug trafficking, in my opinion. And I just, that a volume of money I cannot see being in a drug house. I don't know, though. I don't know, but that's what kind of
70,000 maybe, but not 700,000.
Yeah, it's hard to say, especially with knowing that that if you're talking about Emma Bailey, she states in that police video she's got a safe. Right? I mean, she's right next to the King Road home. There's a safe in a bigger, more secure house, literally walking distance. So why would, if that were the connection, why wasn't the 700,000 in the safe? I don't know. But I do want to know other people's thoughts on it too. Robert, have you ever taken a dive into the Papa Rogers comments?